to me, a huge component of like what makes wine special is like how well the winemakers has integrated the alcohol into the wine. Which is when people spit wine, I'm like, I don't really understand. Like, I'm not there yet, and I'm not good enough at like understanding wine to spit the wine out, because like to me, the swallow is very important. Understanding how well the alcohol feels when you consume the wine is a big component of to me saying like that wine is well rounded.
Because people are spitting out the wine just based off of like what they're touching the moment.
Which is amazing. Like, I wish I could be at this point where I could smell a wine, swirl a wine, sip a wine, and then spit it and be like, and leave a 20 bottle wine tasting sober.
Yeah.
What a dream. Like,
I've always wanted that too.
I leave a wine tasting smashed because like I did not.
There's zero chance I would ever do that.
Yeah,
I don't know how we drive home.
You know, and I just can't.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another segment of our Vinos Talk. We're here at Eating House. We're here with Giorgio, who's an executive chef and part owner, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And here, Luca and Mayfair in the Grove.
And Eating House, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for having us here and letting us jump in. And of course, we're here with Mr. Lorenzo.
Glad to be back.
Glad
to keep it going.
Meat Market. And we're going to be sampling a couple wines, get into a little bit of Giorgio's story with the restaurants here, and then we're going to try a couple different really good wines today and let these guys kind of lead the conversation, and I'll add in some supplemental questions in between. So hope you guys enjoy. But so let's kick it off with you. I want to kind of chat a little bit about Eating House,
where we are,
other restaurants. So if you can tell them a little bit about that.
So we are in what's the new Eating House, the Eating House 2.0 almost.
Okay.
The original location was open inside of a Cuban bakery in 2012. We were a pop-up restaurant. I was very fortunate enough to be the first Miami winner of Chopped.
Oh, nice.
On the Food Network. I used that money and the kind of the notoriety to like basically give up everything I had and just open a pop-up restaurant. And we were in a bakery for 6 months. We were like kind of like a fun, forward-thinking restaurant with no money, and we just did everything we could. We would go to Publix every single day and buy groceries and figure out the menu.
It's crazy.
Based on whatever was available. And we did that for 6 months, and we were like very fortunate to have a very good following. People loved us, and after 6 months, we were like, okay, that's it. We're done. We're gonna go find a new location. We didn't know what we were gonna do. And all of a sudden we got a call from the owners of the original location, like, hey, listen, do you wanna take over our spot? We said, absolutely. That was in 2012. And in 2022, we opened up this location of Eating House 2.0. In 2021, we opened up Luca Osteria, which is an Italian restaurant. And kind of like a fun interpretation on Italian, not like hyper traditional, I guess, Italian through my lens. And as of 2 weeks, I am the chef of Mayfair Grill in Coconut Grove, at like the historic Mayfair Hotel, and kind of making my mark on an iconic location in Miami. So one step closer to taking over the world.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, those are three really iconic spots in Miami. Obviously, I think majority of people know about it, which is sick. To kind of be a part of it. And I had no idea how that all originated, which is pretty crazy to hear that. So were you always like into food and
Always into food. I never took my SATs. I never applied to college. I was just like, this is all I'm going to do my whole life. Right? Like, there was never really a moment where I was like, I'm going to be a chef. It's just like all I've ever known. And I've been cooking professionally since I was 17. When I was 18, I took my first restaurant job at Chispa in the Gables.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, Norman Van Aken had Normans in the Gables, and you had Mundo, and Chispa was in the Gables, and Pascal was in the Gables. So to me, making it meant you made it in the Gables, right? Like, so it was like, I'm going to open a restaurant in the Gables. And then the pop-up happened, and we were given this incredible opportunity. My partner, Alex, and I, we were both like living together. We were roommates living in we had like typical like bachelor pad in like North Beach. He was a manager at the Clevelander in Miami Beach. I ran F&B at the Anglers Hotel on South Beach. We both just gave up everything, like health insurance, 401k, salary. We gave it all up, and we're like, let's just like create our dream.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been amazing. We've been business partners together for 12 years now. We're 50-50. We even have like a mediator that has to like make a decision for us because like neither one of us owns more of the business. So like if we ever disagree, it has to go to like a third party.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very much about that. Like that was like a big thing when we opened Luca and Eating House. It was like, this is me and you. We're together for the ride, and like this is 50-50. There's not 49.99 and 50.01. It's 50-50. It's just me and him. We have incredible investors that have allowed us to really get this opportunity to like represent ourselves and give us this opportunity to create beautiful restaurants.
It's amazing.
But when it comes to running, it's just him and I, man. It's like we're boys. You know, my ride or die for years, man, and we've been doing this for a long time. He lets me shine. I let him shine. You know, he gets this like beautiful restaurant. I get this opportunity to like create my food, make cocktails, make the wine list. He gets to like DJ here on the weekends. Like it's really
It's
like
a win-win, bro.
dude, we
Yeah,
just
win-win.
created like our playground, you know, and like what's crazy that we're like, able to live off this and like, I don't know, man, I haven't worked a day in my life, you know. It's amazing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's badass. And props to you guys, like you and your business partner, like the 50-50 split thing is not the traditional way to
not
do things.
at all.
And you know, you guys put your egos aside and we're like, you know what, dude, we're gonna just do
And
this
listen,
together and have a good time doing
At
it.
first, it wasn't like that, right? Like at first, I was like an egomaniac.
Yeah.
You know, I was like a nightmare to work with. Like the fact that he's still working with me for 12 years is like incredible. But at first, it wasn't like that. And like I'll never forget, my Christmas gift to him one year was 10% of the business. It was like a contract, like here's 10%. You know, I was like, here's everything I think you deserve, and like we've just been 50-50 for a long time. It took me like a long time to like realize that it wasn't like about me, and it was like about us, and it wasn't always about us. Like for a long time, I feel like it was about me, and like as you grow and you become really aware of your surroundings and realize like how important your team is, you realize that like it's not about you, it's about the us. And I think ever since I really woke up a long time ago, it's really been about us, and it's just him and I, man. Like we'll just continue to like open restaurants together forever, and hopefully that's the plan. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hopefully more to come.
Yeah.
So then how'd you guys meet?
We met at Andy Erickson wine tasting.
Yes.
Shout out Alex from.
For sure. And we were like,
Southern
you and I are
Glacier.
the only ones that like the white wine here.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we went for the red wine.
Uh-huh.
He brought by accident a white wine and poured it for everyone, and he was next to me, and I was like, this is good, right? We started talking, we sat next to each other, and it just grew from there. We started texting each other bottles of wine, like you need to try this, you need to try that. It's evolved from that, you know?
And I think when you meet someone else that's like Miami born and bred, like business owner, young, really cares about what they're doing, you start realizing like there's not so many of us available. And when you start realizing there's more people like you with the same mindset, you start attaching yourself to
you
them,
naturally
right? Like,
gravitate towards that.
for sure. And it was like, it's very odd to think that like George and I met maybe 6 months ago, and I'm like, yo, that's my boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we talked, and we bonded over a bottle of wine, which is like, at the end of the day, like the most beautiful experience when you bond over food, you bond over wine, and it was like an incredible wine, and like everyone's like, oh, give me the big dog, give me the big Napa Cab, and you and I were like, oh, let's drink the white. Like, keep pouring
We're
this.
the only
Like,
ones asking for
you
the
were
white.
like, oh, you like white wine?
People
Oh,
were
me
looking at us weird, like everyone's like, I was like,
yeah, because like also too, like when you think like Miami is very like, I'm
100%.
macho, like I
100%,
drink Big Red, and we're George and I are like, oh yeah, we would love the weighty white wine, please, sir. You know what I mean? It was the opposite of what everybody drinks in Miami, and I was like, oh, dude, you and I have the same palate.
Yeah.
You know, so like him and I,
That's funny.
we'll text each other business wise. He'll be like, buy this wine right now. Like, don't think about it. Buy this wine yesterday. And when you
Hasn't
see
failed
somebody else
once.
that's like done it, like, and I think like Luca happened through the pandemic, Lamelo's happened through the pandemic.
True.
You kind of start seeing eye to eye, and we're like, all right, like at the end of the day, like I've been alive 39 years, and like I don't waste my time with people that aren't gonna make me better. You know what I mean? Like I surround myself with people that inspire me, and I surround myself with people that like make me a better version of myself, and like I don't really have time to waste it on like fake friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro, 100%.
So like, why not surround yourself with people that elevate you and make you better and like inspire you to be a better version of yourself? And I think I found that with someone that like, that's I think very rare in Miami.
Dude, you're
But
preaching
like,
to the choir.
and like everyone in Miami is like, oh, Miami, this like big city, but like, yo, Miami is the smallest city in the world.
Everyone
like,
knows
we're
everyone,
like we're
bro.
this big, right? Like everybody knows everybody, and like when people find out that like I'm boys with George, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like I get it. You know what I mean? And like that's a good thing, right? Like when people around you that like don't connect you to it, realize that you two are like friendly there, and they get it. They're like,
And like, I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it. I understand why. And
Yeah.
like, okay, then I know I'm like doing the right call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a full circle moment because now here we are and you guys are drinking some white wines together.
drinking
again,
white
which
wine,
I'm sure you
man.
guys
Drinking.
probably
Look,
do this
hey,
frequently.
3 white and 2 red. Like,
And
there you
one
go.
life-changing wine for Andre.
I
Well,
know.
for, honestly,
One
for us
life-changing
3.
wine.
The crazy
We'll
part
get
is
to that.
you call me before and you're like, dude, I have a life-changing wine. And then you two are just talking off to the side and he goes, dude, that's a life-changing wine. For 2 people, not knowing that they described it the same way.
Listen.
I don't even know what to expect.
I
with
feel
that.
like, I mean, it was interesting. Imagine, like, I'm in Napa, I'm with Bob Levy, like, we're in the whole thing, and like, this guy's talking, I pull out my phone, and I'm like, buy this wine
he did.
now.
He was probably
Like,
drunk, and
I'm like,
instantly
yeah.
started doing research. I'm like, I'm buying 3 of them. You know,
Yeah, like, you need to buy this wine right now. Like, it'll change your
Never had the
perception.
wine in my life
Yeah.
till today,
Oh,
by the
man.
way. And
Oh, that was the first
I
time
popped
today?
it at the store. I was looking around, no one was there.
Yeah,
I poured a
it's
little in the
crazy.
glass. I smelled. I was like, oh wow.
So
this
we're
is-
gonna
man.
taste some cool stuff.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I think, about today is that we're gonna have some like really fun, like some fun wines, some wines that like don't necessarily make too much sense. We're gonna have beautiful reds from France. We're gonna have Napa Valley Legends, old Spanish wine. So already I feel like what's interesting about when George and I talk about white wines. How censored is this podcast?
Oh,
Not
no,
very?
no censor.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
you're
when,
good.
when we're like, yo, when wine's piss yellow, that's a
Yeah.
good sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
we like this.
Gotcha.
Sounds so weird to anybody that doesn't know what we're
But
talking
when
about.
it's like this yellow, that's already going to be a beautiful experience. So I just had this at a tasting 2 hours ago, and I'm like, I
Okay.
brought 2 wines with me, and I'm like, this is something that I think is going to vibe. So Ca del Bosco from Lombardia, they're very famous for their Franciacorta, which is like basically champagne,
Gotcha.
quintessentially made in Italy, but they made
Okay.
the Chardonnay knockout. Very interesting compared to what we're going to have later of this almost Burgundian style, like very Merceau influenced Chardonnay. This is not so much mallow, not so much oak, super apple heavy, which
Okay.
I found so interesting.
steel, concrete.
Honestly, I don't know too much about it because I liked it and I said,
When
okay,
you say
I'll
steel
take it.
concrete, what do you mean by that?
Aged, so
Yeah,
you can age
or
it in
like-
oak.
and like
Oh,
fermentation.
okay.
There has to be
Fermentation
some
and-
oak age on here, but you're gonna taste it. It's just like beautiful roasted apple, which doesn't always happen
Really
with Chardonnay. And very interesting that it's from like Lombardia, where Milan is from, or like Lake Como, where like Clooney got married, right?
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
Holy cow.
Something
this
that you
wine is
don't
awesome,
walk
dude.
into
Wow.
a wine shop and see.
Okay, so yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So is this something that you're only finding like at a restaurant or on online wine vendor? Like, if I want to purchase this, where am I looking for this?
Honestly,
It's probably subjective, but
yeah,
for the
like
most part,
I've never had this wine in my life until
okay,
earlier
got
today.
you. Okay.
What's beautiful about it is like definitely some malolactic fermentation
It's
going onto the
delicious.
kind of creaminess, but like
yep.
It has-
yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna find a lot more oak in the next one, which kind of
Okay.
goes into this like creamy creme brulee flavor profile. But this is still just like so much apple. It's like drinking like this is like cracking open Martinelli's.
Dude, I mean, this is like perfectly like we were talking about. You open this like on a hot summer day,
Oh.
and you can.
I like
you can
enough-
do some
enough
It's
dinner.
got a
weight.
nice body, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
enough
You
weight
can have
that
a
it's
nice
gonna
meal.
like keep the connoisseur excited.
Exactly.
Freshness and approachability that like I think anybody would enjoy.
Yeah.
I think a very interesting comment that I hear sometimes at the restaurant a lot. It's like, oh, I don't like Chardonnay. Like I
That
don't
is the
believe
number
you.
one comment you hear.
you
when it
just
comes to
don't know
wine.
what
And
Chardonnay
it's
is
usually
like.
why because it's technically sweeter, right? Is that why most people
So
don't like it?
Chardonnay, for the most part, is usually like when you think of like the Napa
Mm-hmm.
example of it, it's super oaky, super buttery, which can be off-putting. Like when you do too much of it,
okay.
it can
Yeah,
kind of
I
push
can
you away.
see
You
that.
know, it gets really repugnant. you
Okay.
know? So most people, like Georgia said, they don't know a good example of what a good Chardonnay is.
Got it.
And
So they're already turned
And
off just
it's
by
okay
trying
to
it.
have oak and it's okay to have mallow.
Right.
So what happens with this? It's called malolactic fermentation, where basically it converts from malic acid, which is like the acid that you would have in a green apple,
Okay.
into lactic acid, which is creaminess, which is when they say butter or cream or like creme fraiche that you taste in a wine. That's through that process.
Got it.
I personally very much enjoy malolactic fermentation. All wine goes through that. Like not all wine, but most wines can. Some wines are prohibited, and that's okay. But even red wines go through malolactic fermentation. I very much enjoy that process. Now, how much of that you do and how much oak you
Right,
apply
the
can,
oak.
like, this is going to be a vastly different wine than this wine,
Mhm.
and that's okay, because this wine is just as spectacular.
Right.
But this one doesn't have as much of that like big oak, so it kind of prohibits it, which is very interesting because to me, this is apple. Like
Yeah, it gives me the moment you
oxidized
smell it,
apple,
you smell it.
Not even like fresh apple, but like you let an apple, like you take a bite
Yep.
and you let it sit on the counter and it turns brown. That's what this smells like to me.
100%.
But it has like this beautiful acid that allows you to keep drinking it and you want to keep going, you want to keep going.
Yeah.
And what happens is a lot of time in this like more per se entry level Napa Chardonnay, that acid isn't there because it's warmer. The fruit ripens more. They don't have that acidity, which balances the wine. Which is saying it's too buttery for me. Okay,
Yeah.
so like, and that's okay. Butter is good, but it's about the butter, the acid. Like
Like
it's
that
if you think
ratio.
about like this beautiful, like think about like beurre blanc, like a wine sauce, which is like wine, butter, lemon juice. Why is it beautiful? Because it's completely balanced. And that's a wonderful thing. And when wines aren't balanced, whether it's Chardonnay, whether it's Sauvignon Blanc, it's not. That's what it's about, right? Like, and I think that still happens to me when I do these tastings. Is like, to me, a huge component of like what makes wine special is like how well the winemakers has integrated the alcohol into the wine. Which is when people spit wine, I'm like, I don't really understand. Like, I'm not there yet, and I'm not good enough at like understanding wine
Yeah.
to spit the wine out because, like, to me, the swallow is very important. Understanding how well the alcohol feels when you consume the wine is a big component of to me saying like that wine is well rounded.
Yeah. Because
So-
people are spitting out the wine just based off of like what they're touching the moment
Which
they
is
take a sip.
amazing. Like, I wish I could be at this point where I can smell a wine, swirl a wine, sip a wine, and then spit
be
it
like-
and be like, and leave a 20 bottle wine tasting sober.
Yeah, I know.
What a dream. Like,
I've always
I don't.
wanted that
I
too.
leave a wine tasting smashed because like I do not.
There's zero chance I would ever do that.
Yeah, I
don't know
can't.
how we
you
drive
know,
home after
you know,
this
and I
tasting.
just can't.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, shit, bro, we're gonna run through some wine.
I just can't do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like to me, the feel of like how well the alcohol, because it's crazy. Sometimes you'll have these wines that are like 14, 15% that it's like smooth as pie, and then you have some wines that are like 12 and a half and it's like burning you
Right.
down.
Yeah.
And like that's how well the winemaker integrated and like completely made this like balance of the wine. So to me, when I taste a wine like this, which I say, okay, as a restaurant owner of an Italian restaurant, this by no means will sell easy. And I know that.
Okay.
Like to say, I have this like beautiful appley Chardonnay from Lombardia.
Yeah.
It's already 5 years old. This is by no means an easy sell.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, maybe I don't take a case, I don't take 2 cases, but I take 6 bottles and I put it on the specials list and I say, this is wine for the wine lover, for the person that comes in here and says, you know what, like I trust you.
Which is
And, like,
basically how I feel Luca is now,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
most people,
Oh,
even people that text me, what do I ask for? I'm like, whatever, ask
Yeah.
for Giorgio, whatever he
Yeah.
offers you.
And like
it's gonna
we
be
have
good.
a wine list where we have, you know, everything you want, and that's okay. And then we have a wine specials list, which is like weird wines that like do not make sense in an Italian restaurant, but just because like I'm a nerd and I'm
Right.
passionate
Yeah,
about
you
it.
like it. Yeah.
So like today we bought this, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
this will be on our
delicious.
specials list this week.
Delicious.
And
Nice.
like this wine has enough oomph to handle a lot of big food. Like even pastas, like some people would say like have bolognese with red. No, to me, this is perfect for our bolognese.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, like that makes sense to me. Like kind of like have that beautiful like richness and the acidity to kind of cut through the bolognese. That's like a match made in
Beautiful.
heaven for me.
So
Yeah.
if I'm looking for a Chardonnay, is there something that I should be looking for, either on the bottle? I mean, obviously this is a Napa. Right, this is Napa.
No, this is Italy.
No, this,
Italian.
this one's Italy.
Yeah.
It's from
Ah,
Lombardia.
okay.
So this is from the
Got you.
region
Okay.
where Milano is, where so this is from Cal del Bosco, which is like a
Okay.
famous Franciacorta producer.
Oh yeah, I see it here now. Okay.
Yeah. Which makes no sense. Very like Lombardia is not known for growing Chardonnay.
Got it.
But if you think about it, Lombardia is very famous for Franciacorta, which grows Chardonnay for making a sparkling. So these guys said, okay, if we can make the sparkling, well,
Right.
we've got our grapes here, let's make a still wine. And this is by no means cheap. This is a $60, $70 bottle of wine retail.
Right.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
delicious.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm buying this wine.
Uh-huh.
Fact.
Yeah, and like me as someone who's passionate about wine, loves the wine industry, loves the restaurant industry, I don't care about making a lot of money on wine.
Yeah.
It's more important for me to make a lot of restaurants. Let's say this wine costs you $70, we'll sell it to you for $210, $215, $220. I'll sell it for $150, $160. Why? I want to cover my costs. I have to deal with it all. I have to store it. I have to pay electricity. I have to make my costs. I have to pay labor. Listen, if I know I can get 6 more bottles of this after I sell 6, for what?
Exactly.
Like, why not give you an experience to be like, dude, I went to this like little restaurant in the Gables and I had Chardonnay, which I thought I didn't like Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Turns out I like Chardonnay
From Italy.
from Italy, and it tasted like the apple juice I grew up drinking.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And that's all it takes for you to come back to my restaurant
And ask for the
come
next
back
special.
and keep
Right?
becoming a regular. And like becoming a regular. So if you think about it, like the way I sell wine is almost like an investment. Like but the same money I make on this $60 bottle is the same money I make on a $600 bottle of Promontory, or the same money I make on any bottle. Like, bro, 75. If I have a bottle of wine that I can get one and that's it, okay, I get it. I might need to make a little bit more.
Right.
But I'm not making more than 75, $100. And plus, there's not one person on earth that doesn't have a phone, that doesn't pull out a wine. If they don't know it, they don't look on Vivino, they don't see what it costs, they see what it costs wholesale.
Yeah,
and if somebody says, hey, listen, wholesale this wine is $180, but I can get it here for $215, $30 over wholesale, let's do it.
Yeah.
Now they see the wine is $180 wholesale and I'm charging $600, they're gonna tell me to kick rocks.
Of course, yeah. No, it's true. It's a great point, because me being, kind of like a novice in the space, that's exactly what me and my girlfriend do. We're looking at the wine list. We'll kind of sift through. We've gotten knowledgeable of like the regions we like and kind of the types of wines that we like. So we'll narrow it down. But I'm always looking to explore something new. So we'll go on Vivino, we'll search it up, and the first thing we always say is like, dude, this shit's fucking $50 at retail, and they're selling it for, like you said, like $180. And I'm like, what? But like people will catch on to those things, because it's just normal human behavior to do something like that. And then on top of it, you're saying like they come, they see that this bottle is good, they like it, and then for whatever reason they go to another restaurant, they see it there, and they see that it's marked up another $60. They're like, screw that, I'm not going there. I'm going to come here to eat.
For sure. And look, bro, listen, I have white tablecloth Italian. I've got Thomas Keller's French restaurant next to me. I've got everybody who's charging way more than me for wine.
Yeah.
And like, another thing to think about, like, yeah, we're boys and we buy the same wine, but he sells retail. I sell wine.
Yeah.
So if somebody, like, and I guarantee you the people that are buying meat from him are coming to eat at my restaurant on a Saturday.
They are.
It's the same demographic. And they're going to see the same wines. They're going to say, well, listen, hey, this wine was from a bottle shop. And here it's only $40 more. Hey, let's get it today.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to make smart investments,
100%.
And like, listen, my wine doesn't go bad. I have a small restaurant. I don't have a lot of like, here at Eating House, yes, we have a beautiful wine cellar and allows you to store wine, but at Luca, dude, I'm like minuscule, you know what I mean? So I have to rotate wine.
Yeah.
So I have 2 options. Either A, mark at a price that allows me to like move quickly, buy vintage, but like, even library releases, I'm like, dude, whatever, let's just sell it. Like, let's give people an experience. And like, I feel, for me, there's a reason why my, 70-seat little Italian bistro on Giralda has a 1 month, 3-week wait list for a reservation, right? Like, selling good pasta, we make a good restaurant, we have a great wine list, we're there, I'm there working 6 days a week, like, the fact that like after this, like, maybe I'm like in a polo, but like, believe me, after this podcast, I'm going to put on a black t-shirt and an apron and I'm going to work at the restaurant. Like, we work. Alex works. My partner and I work. We all work. Like, and that's the reason that our restaurants are full, is because like we're in them every single day and we care.
Yeah.
Maybe too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we really, really, really care. Like, I put myself out there to like, educate myself, like, even outside of work. When I'm at home chilling, I'm watching WSET videos. I'm watching wine education videos.
Obsessed,
like, it's an obsession, because like my goal is to, number one, try to know about everything, and like, but I also want to be able to have a conversation with anybody about anything at any time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to. If you want to talk
It's a
about
good
like,
approach.
It is.
whatever it is, I don't. You want to talk about art? I want to be able to carry a conversation with you about anything with anyone, and like, that's part of my job, right? Like, if I have people that come to the restaurant and they're passionate about whatever, bro, Jean-Michel Basquiat. Okay, well then I need to know my own about Basquiat, because if not, like, the person that came to the restaurant will be like, this guy's a clown, doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
Or, hey, let's go back to the restaurant about the chef that's passionate about the same art that I am. That's like part of my job, you know what I mean? So I put in the work outside of it. And it's also very fortunate for me that it's about this like beautiful industry where it's like, yeah, I'm lucky, right? Because like, I'm just drinking Like, there's a lot of bad wine out there too. Like,
Oh, yeah,
wine tastings are rough, you know. But like, luckily
had
you get to
some.
a point where it's like you know what you like and you can kind of gear yourself, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a great industry. You know, it's hard work. It's brutal work. It's long hours. It's 6 days a week. I do everything I can, but it's like, dude, it's a fucking dream.
Yeah. My buddy that he's in the restaurant industry, he's the same way. Like the guy's obsessed with the space. It's
Obsession.
like it's so
is.
hard for them to disconnect. You
Oh,
know?
I don't ever
Yeah,
disconnect.
Listen to me. 11 o'clock at night, I get in bed and I'm looking at wines. I'm reading about. I'm on
Yeah.
Cellar Tracker, reading tasting notes for a wine I've never tried in my life. And my fiance will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Watch your show. I'm doing my thing.
I'm doing my own
You know,
show.
she
Right?
gets
You're
it at this
freaking out.
point.
You're like, this doesn't taste like the fruit of the apricot, but it tastes like the seed. You know, and you're like, isn't that great? And she's like, yeah,
Sure.
sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is it
Great.
good? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, dude.
Like it.
So like, for example, for me, this is exciting to like show you guys wines that I know, but like as exciting as like 12-year-old white wine from Spain that we're about to try.
Yeah, this
It has
is interesting to me, 'cause
Malvasia that I didn't even know grew in Spain, which is like a typical white blending grape from Italy, and it's gonna be
Because there's a
Great.
Rioja red version as well.
Yeah,
right?
there's a Tondonia
Yeah.
red.
Which I like those.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I've never seen a white version of
Well,
it.
they're not super expensive, but they're hard to come by.
Gotcha.
Really hard to come by. So like something like this is their current release, right? You're drinking a white wine that is their current vintage,
Ah,
and it's
okay.
12 years old.
Wow.
So that shows you how much time and aging they put into it.
this is when Eating House opened.
They're not worried about cash flow, right? If they're keeping these bottle aged for
Right.
8 years and after the barrel, they're not worried about cash flow. They have
True.
plenty of money.
That's a
but
great point.
They're making a really good product and it's consistent and it has a cult following, a cult-like following, and people go crazy for this wine. So I'm lucky that we have
Let's do
some here. And you should expect something very different from what we just had.
Right. So I guess then what's the biggest difference now between a Chardonnay and a white Rioja? Like right off the get-go in terms of type of wine. Not maybe specifically this bottle, but in terms
I mean,
of type.
already I would say age is a huge.
Right, that'll be a factor.
You get
But
more-
even
more-
let's say
more
if you're
mature
talking
fruit.
about a 2019 versus a 2019 Rioja white and a Chardonnay 2019, what would you say is like the biggest difference in terms of the types?
I think maybe if you're talking the Tor Napa versus this, you can think more mallow, more aged, more oak. That's kind of like the surprise where you're like a little
Okay.
like I'm not
Got you.
really
Because
sure.
it's not very traditional.
Correct.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like this is already like wild, and like it's
Oh,
weird.
wow. Oh,
It's
crazy.
weird to think about like
I
didn't
this
know what it
wine
smells like.
in a sense that like there's definitely no floor. This is definitely not sherry,
Right.
but it's almost
That's
there,
that's
bro.
I know. That's the same thing I get. It's not sherry, but it mimics it in some ways.
Yeah. Which is so cool.
It's a little waxy and oily, compared to what
I
we
get
just
the
had.
oily.
It's great. Very different.
What were you saying about these grapes? The grape, what is it? Grape.
So Malvasia is very typical in Italy,
Malvasia, okay.
which I've never had in Spain and Viuda. But definitely not as like, which is very, it almost to me pushes like more savory, almost like olive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a very vegetal quality, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and it's strange that it's like not floor and it's not sherry.
That's the weirdest part for my mind to kind of.
It's definitely not,
It's driving me
but
crazy.
it's still oxidative, and it's not necessarily by the winemaking style, but bro, this is like already 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
That shit's good.
yeah, it's great.
It's a little, it's drier, right?
Yeah, it's drier.
Right?
This is a wine that you could drink probably a little warmer. You don't chill it as much just because it's got so much body. It's
Yeah.
It's super cool. What an interesting wine.
And then this, so, yeah, that's good.
What I love about wines like these, to me at least, is that okay, you taste that, you're like, that's a banger.
Yeah.
hanger.
You have this, and you're like,
Yeah, I know.
it's a little more cerebral, right? Like
Yeah,
you start
man.
thinking about it, you're like, what the fuck do I taste?
Exactly. And it's like this one, it's like, I wouldn't say it's more traditional, but it's like, okay, like I can get behind that. I can see how this one, like you said, it makes you think. You're like,
Makes you
what
think.
the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that I'm drinking?
Definitely
right now?
like food wine, for sure. You know what I mean?
Charcuterie
I can see that.
cheese.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see
like-
that. This
like a
paired
sh-
with something can
Yeah,
go really
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
This you could just kind of just drink as it is by itself.
That's a really enjoyable wine with food or without by the
Yeah.
pool.
Delicious.
This I could see you pair this with something. It's gonna even what's the word? Exasperate the flavors
It's
even more.
very, very interesting. What a weird wine. What a great wine.
The craziest part is they make a Grand Reserva. This is a Reserva. They make a
Okay,
Grand
I
Reserva.
have seen that.
I have one, and I think those are like 2004.
Oh wow!
So imagine it's
Oh,
got
which
an
is
extra
like-
8 years on it. Yeah,
And like
and that's considered young.
these are the wines to me that make me think about like, okay, that's yummy, right? Like delicious. Like
Super
there's
good.
not a human being on earth that's gonna be like, I don't like this.
Yeah,
This is the type of wine that makes you think like wine is the coolest shit in the world.
it's
Like
true.
this is like, dude, a winemaker,
I've definitely never tried
a
something
barrel, a grape, and time.
Like this.
And like it just
And
makes
he's like just
and like
test it out.
yummy, so good. Like I want to have this wine in 5 years. I want to have this wine in 7 years.
Yeah.
I
Right.
want to have this wine in 30 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can feel it.
This
Yeah,
is the kind of stuff
100%.
that's like,
You taste
I
it.
feel like I'm drinking this. I'm like, I gotta meet the guy that made this. And
Yeah,
just like
it's
talk to him. And be
super
like,
interesting,
What the
bro.
hell was going on in your head when
it's
you were
so cool,
when you were
man.
through
And
this
like,
process?
It's I don't know if it's because it's from Spain, but I keep going back to sherry. But like, there's obviously
It's
not.
the first time I ever tried this wine.
There's obviously
Yeah.
not any sherry making style in this. Like I don't know if it's oxidated or if there is some floor involved in like being like open and like allowing like natural yeast in it. But it's like it's a crazy wine.
When
man.
you open this bottle of wine, are you letting it sit a little bit, or are you kind of just
Dude,
are you gonna
yeah.
let it just kind of pour through? Yeah.
Look at all like the little crystals forming down there.
Wow.
That's good
I've actually
shit.
never seen that before.
No, this is
Yeah.
a wine. So I was in a WSET class this past weekend.
This bottle's also badass.
Yeah, sick. They're cool. And one of the professors mentioned, which was new to me, because I decant almost all my wines.
Right.
This guy decants champagne for hours.
Boy, yeah.
What?
And his theory was that you get the best expression of the champagne after decanting for several hours. Now, you lose a lot of the bite. You lose a lot of the gas.
I could see that, yeah.
You're almost drinking a Chardonnay at that
Yeah.
point, right? But that he's like, if you want the best expression of a champagne, which people will argue this because some people like champagne for the bite that you get,
Yeah.
and you pair it and it's more acidic. But he's like, I let it sit. I move it around in my
Down.
decanter, and I visit it every 2 hours until it's flat. And I like to drink it when it's flat.
I love
That
it.
was new to me, right? That was cool. That just shows how subjective wine can
True.
be. You know, because
Shit,
I
man,
never
that's a
thought.
completely different
Yeah,
experience.
and like honestly, if you think about if you take this and it was bubbly, this would almost be like the like grower champagne
Yes,
that
bro.
you love.
Yes.
that's true.
You know?
That is very true.
Yeah, it's great. It's a beautiful wine.
It is. It's got a lot of character to
Shocking.
it. That's the way.
They
that's
make a,
the
ro-
best
they
way
make
to
a rosé.
describe
Did
it.
you know that? 2028 is the next
Tempranillo
release.
rosé?
Yeah.
It's
Or
great.
the more kind of like the
It's really
smell
hard to
is, like,
get.
popping a little bit more.
It's cool. It's just like more, and like that's a cool wine. Like that's the beauty about wine is that wine can be like just yummy and delicious, and like awesome and like a great
It's
experience.
just getting better the more you drink it. I
And
know.
it can
I
also
don't sit
make
there
you
for
think,
20, 30
Oh
minutes.
my
I'll get
god,
better, yeah.
bro.
Oh, this should like honestly this wine
Shit's fucking good.
Tomorrow
bro.
it'll be
open for
good.
6
Like,
hours.
the more I'm drinking it,
and
the more
room
I'm like-
temperature.
At room temp,
getting
exactly.
like
Yeah,
juices for it,
it's
you
just
know?
a very it like makes you think about wine and like
Yeah.
like it's cool.
No,
man.
it's true. I mean, I remember the first time we recorded the Lamellos one. This is how like the whole wine thing even started. And we were talking, and I'll never forget. Like Giorgi put such a kind of like a narrative behind like the art making behind wine. And you know, you drink wine and you don't really think about that stuff,
No.
but you're like, holy shit, the
The winemaker
complexities
every
that go
year-
into every
Yeah.
single bottle and the variations that come with every bottle.
Yep.
It just shows like how meticulous these people are, and they're obviously clearly very passionate about what they do. And every bottle is a completely different experience, and that to
Right.
me is like what I appreciate so much about it. Because
This
I'm
is
like,
sick.
I'm willing to pay for the experience, kind of like how you were alluding to, right? Like you're getting something very different. You're not just going to the shelf at Publix and just picking a bottle
Oh,
of
yeah.
wine, right? Like you're going here and you're like, okay, there's a story behind this one, and what is it? Now you start
Yep.
doing your research, you start looking through it, and you're like, holy shit, like this is amazing. And then you become like a fan, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, that's spectacular.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. This is like just such a cool wine, you know. And like maybe this is that's a bottle of wine at the table, and this is a glass
Yeah,
of wine.
I
And
can
that's
see that.
okay because everything has its place.
Yeah.
This is
That's
yummy,
a good way to put it.
delicious, great dinner.
Yeah.
This is wine that you'll think
a
about
good
for
way
a
to put it.
long time.
Yep.
And maybe it's not the best wine you've ever had in your life, but it's still wine that you're gonna
think about it for sure.
That was
Still
one of the
can't
most
figure it
unique
out.
experiences of
Yeah,
a
man.
wine
Like
that I've
even
had.
me, that's someone who's had tons of wine, I still don't know what this tastes like.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
I
When
can't get
something
the smell.
stumps you, like when you've been doing something for 20 fucking years and you find something that's like
Holy shit, what is this?
you don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's sick.
So now we can go to
We're going to Napa.
let's
Yeah.
go to Napa.
Go to
So
Napa.
Napa legend number 1. Today we're gonna have 2 Napa legends, right? Tor Kenward number 1, Bob Levy number 2. Very interesting. I just had this wine when I was in Napa with Tor. This is
You
one
were
of the
mentioning Tor was like one of the like
OG,
premier of
Tor.
Napa.
Yeah, Tor Kenward is a big Napa guy.
Okay.
Makes spectacular wine. In 1976, a British gentleman living in Paris created what's known as like the Judgment of Paris, where he basically
Yo, that's crazy.
it's crazy, right? It's crazy, right? I told you about this wine
I've
too,
never had it. It's so good, man.
and I told you about this wine.
Wow.
I was like, you need to
You
drink
think
this
you
one.
know Chardonnay until you keep trying Chardonnay.
All right.
This is a Chardonnay as well.
This is Chardonnay,
Okay.
100% Chardonnay. So, 1976, Steve Spurrier creates this event called the Judgment of Paris, where he goes to California, has Californian winemakers. Yeah, this is like wine that you're like,
What?
wow.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't want to like make a reaction as you were
Yeah.
talking about. Holy shit, that's
Okay, so-
fucking good.
The flavor of this, the what the fuck of this,
What the
and then you
hell?
got this.
No, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's
so,
crazy.
Well, the
76,
nose is
Steve Spurrier,
out of this
Uh-huh.
world.
British wine, has a wine shop in Paris. Creates a wine academy in Paris for people to learn about wine. And first of all, everybody in Paris is like, "What the fuck you think
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are?
yeah.
You're a British guy."
Yeah.
Goes to California, has these wines, and like creates this event called the Judgment of Paris, or the Tasting of Paris, where he gets 9 of like the greatest tasters in Paris to blind taste California versus Napa in red and white. Stag's Leap wins red, Chateau Montelena wins white.
Wow.
And beats
both
French
Napa.
wines.
Yeah.
2 California wines considered by the French to vote as the greatest
Right.
wine in the world. 2016, they redoed the Judgment of Paris. Tor Kenward's 2016 Tocolon Cabernet Sauvignon wins best wine, red wine in the world. Wins the wine. This is a Chardonnay. So when I went to Tor, they welcome. Usually, most wine tastings you go to, it's like, you get welcomed with a glass of white, and it's like you taste 9 reds. You can chill with the reds. Like, I wanted to drink this.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're talking about, I'm like, dude, like, where did you learn how to make this? He's like, yeah, this guy's been making wine in Napa for 50 years. He's like, well, you know, I went to learn to make white wine. I figured when I was young, I went over to Burgundy and I went to Domaine de la Romanée Conti, which is like
$20,000 bottles.
$20,000 bottles of wine. Yeah, we're talking about like 26, 27, $28,000 bottles of Pinot Noir.
God damn.
750s.
That's crazy.
They make one white wine. It's Montrachet, 10 G's for a bottle of Chardonnay. And he's like, I just learned to make Montrachet from Domaine de la Romanée Conti, and I just tried to redo exactly what they did.
Okay.
So I'm very excited because I've talked about it. I haven't tasted this since I've been
Oh,
back.
you haven't tasted?
No, I haven't tasted it
since
since
then.
then.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
This wine's a shit.
Just as good, right? It's just as good as you remember?
Incredible. This
Wine's
is
a
crazy,
fucking
right?
shit.
Yeah, it's my number one. That's my number one.
So
Again,
how would you
subjective.
describe it? It's got like
Full
a
mallow,
yeah.
creamy.
Yeah, it's got a creamy body
Yeah,
to
it's
it.
beautiful.
Mhm.
But not super buttery because there's
No.
he's retained the acid,
Yep.
which has allowed you to have this almost like creme fraiche, butterstocky, whipped cream flavor profile, vanilla.
Yes,
definitely
vanilla.
oak.
Yes, 100%. What? So
This wine's
question.
fucking spectacular.
Creamy
American
versus-
oak, right?
Yeah, sure.
When you hear that's a
Uh-huh.
a signifier of what oak they're using. I mean, it's tough
Okay.
sometimes, but when you smell the vanilla, for the most part, there's got to be some kind of American oak influence.
Okay. And are these things kind of like mentioned on the bottle? So like if you're looking for something.
For the
like,
most part, it'll tell you what kind of oak. Most
Okay,
bottles will say
gotcha.
American oak. Some of them don't.
So
but-
like this is a very interesting because like not only does this have the name of the wine, but it has the vineyard where it's from and where it's from.
Mm.
So this is from Carneros,
Carneros.
which is in the south of Napa, almost pushing on Sonoma.
Okay.
So as you go closer to the equator, you have more warmth. which allows you to ripen the fruit a little bit more. So pretty much like wines, to me, I've learned like just like kind of work on lines of latitude. Like if you just kind of draw a straight line through across the entire world, like all the grapes grow the same, dude. And whether you like go 20, 30 degrees north of the equator or south, you're gonna grow the same grapes. So more than like if you can almost draw a line from like Willamette into Burgundy, and they're gonna grow very similar styles, right? Like you go from California, you go from Napa to Bordeaux, pretty similar styles, right? You're gonna go through like Tuscany. So what's interesting about this is that like you get this like beautiful like ripeness, but you like he's managed to maintain the acidity that a lot of Napa Valley cabs don't have. So when people are like, nah, I don't really like butter, like, yeah, you don't like butter because there's not enough acid to balance the butter.
Right.
And like in Burgundy, people are like, oh, I love white Burgundy. Yeah, okay, but like what white Burgundy do you love?
Right.
Like, do you love Chablis? Do you love Meursault? Do you love Montrachet? Everybody has their different like kind of style. This wine is just
That's incredible.
This guy's in shock.
I'm,
This is the life-changing wine we were talking about. It's not even the red.
right. Like
No,
right.
yeah, this is incredible.
And what's crazy, like both these dudes, Bob and Tor, have been making wines for. These vines were planted in 1988. What year were you born?
Pro, 95.
Yeah. Think about that, dude.
Crazy.
So like imagine the beauty of buying
That's
this,
insane.
which is a 22, no age
Yeah.
to it, and throwing this in your cellar for 20 years and drinking it in 20 years
This
and
is-
revisiting it, right? Like,
No, yeah, crazy experience.
But when you have wine that it's like, okay, so this is very interesting
Crazy.
because like
That's
I
crazy.
didn't have a relationship with this wine purveyor. I knew this wine purveyor sold this wine. So I basically was like in Napa and I said, sell me this wine right now. Like, if you want to develop a relationship with
Yeah,
me,
I need it
I have
right
3
now.
restaurants.
Yeah.
If you wanted this relationship, you're gonna sell me
it
this
allocated?
wine. He's like, it's a little like tricky. And I'm like, he's like, I have 4 cases. I'm like, do you want to develop this relationship? Like, you want my business? If you like it, sell me this wine.
oh my god,
Luckily, they have amazing wine. Yeah,
Leverage.
it's terroir. But
that's hilarious.
How
So
allocated is it?
I think there's 3 cases left. I took one of the 4.
Okay.
Man, I have
like-
to make a phone call.
Dude, like, okay, so to me, all right, this is by no means a cheap bottle of wine. It's an
Right.
$80 bottle of wine, let's say.
Well
So,
deserved. 'Cause that
If you
shit's good.
think about, let's say, okay, we just poured, let's say you have 5 6-ounce pours in this wine, right? And each sip is a half an ounce. That's 12 sips of wine, right? Divided by 5, 60 sips. Would you pay $1.50 to taste this wine again?
Absolutely. I paid
That's all you-
$5 to
Okay.
fucking
Then
take
that's all you
another
need to
sip
do.
of this again.
That is
That's
how-
good math. That's
that
wine
is-
math.
That's a
It's
great
wine
one.
math.
Bro, this,
That
this guy knows how to sell.
That is how I have learned to justify what I
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
myself.
That's a great way.
Would I pay $10 to taste this again in my life? And if the answer is yes, I buy the wine. And that can be $100, that can be $200,
That's
that can be
very
3,
fair.
that can be 4, that can be 5, that can be 6. But if I tell myself, would I pay this? Would I pay $20 to taste this again in my life? And if the answer is yes, then I buy the wine. It's very easy.
That's
This is ridiculous wine.
It is.
Ridiculous wine.
And like, this is a ridiculous wine.
it is a really ridiculously
Have
good
a little
one.
more.
I will.
Yeah.
It's
so
just a stunning
a
bottle.
term that we've been bouncing back and forth because I'm curious, right? Like the butter versus creamy. What's like what's the difference when describing like
Formula.
buttery versus creamy? Yeah.
I think they're both kind of similar because
Right.
like you don't make butter without cream
Okay.
when it comes to the restaurant industry. I think it's about how much acid is in the wine to kind of cut
right.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
And like, bro, if you realize when you taste this wine, it's like this beautiful richness, but at the end, it's all the back of the tongue.
Super long finish.
You're salivating.
It's
Such a
3,
long
4 minutes
finish.
sitting there. The fruit, you taste the fruit.
God.
So I distinctly remember tasting this wine and being like, all right, well, I've met my match, right? Like I've
Yeah.
met my Napa Valley Chardonnay.
It's like you're coming
I
home
found
with me.
it.
It's true. It's kind of hard to pinpoint a good Napa Chard.
And then when he's
honestly.
like, oh yeah, well, I just learned to make wine from the best winemaker in Burgundy 30 years ago, and I just do what he does. And like, I don't do much, and I just keep it simple. And I'm like, all right, great. Like, honestly, don't tell me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, just
exactly.
sell me the wine, right?
You think there's so much complexity, but yet this
And like,
guy's
for me, as a restaurant owner who has a team that's passionate about wine, my vision is I buy a case of 12, I sell 6 to my staff at cost, and then I sell the other 6.
that's awesome.
So like,
That's sick.
I remember telling my staff, like, I just bought the greatest Chardonnay you'll ever have from California. If you want a bottle, let me know. And if you like it, great.
Yeah, because then they're gonna push the shit out of it.
Yeah.
It's a
And
good
like,
ROI.
maybe I don't make that much on it, and that's okay.
Yeah, but shit,
Being someone
people are
that-
gonna come back
I
for
don't
it.
I
That's for
don't
damn
care.
Sure.
Like, listen, I'm very fortunate enough to have an Italian restaurant that like my base is
Yeah.
flour and water. I sell pasta. We're busy. We have we're very lucky and very fortunate to have a very lucrative restaurant that does well, is busy. We also work very hard. We give great service. We have great wine, but like,
Yeah.
I don't like ripping people off on wine, because like even if this wasn't a wine podcast and you guys were paying for the wine, I would feel comfortable with charging you with what I could charge for this. And like,
Absolutely.
that's a good experience to know, like I want you to like, dude, you're gonna talk about this wine for a long time. Like
I'm
every
gonna
time,
come back just to come
and
get
the
it.
thing too is, like, think about it. Every time you drink a Chardonnay from Napa,
Yeah.
you're gonna compare it to
Yes,
this.
exactly.
Right? So if you have this wine at my restaurant, every time you have a Chardonnay from Napa, you're gonna compare it to the time you had it at my restaurant.
Yeah.
That's
a good-
You're
it's a good
creating
sales
a
point in
Napa,
itself.
a Napa experience here
Right.
in Coral Gables.
And that's the beauty of this wine. Like, when I had this, I remember, and we had, I'm talking single vineyard Cabernet at Tour. We had like the cream of the crop. We had the 2016 Tocolon vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon, that won wine of the world, blah blah. And after, I'm like, yeah, can I have more Chardonnay, please? Like, you know, like, I'm like, can I just drink
I would
this
have felt
again?
the same way. It's really good.
It took one sip,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, great. Like,
yeah,
maybe not the greatest Chardonnay I've ever had in
changed
my
whole
life,
perspective of Chardonnay.
but like, I've had the greatest Chardonnay I've ever had from California ever.
yeah,
Like, forget Napa, forget Carneros, forget Russian River Valley, Central Coast, whatever it may be, because they all make incredible Chardonnay. This is,
But this just-
to me,
I would agree.
the greatest
agree.
Chardonnay I've ever had from Napa, from California.
Prior to today, it was Paul Meyer for me. Paul
I remember
Meyer,
you talked
Paul
about
Meyer
that.
makes a really good Chardonnay, and it's again expensive for a Chardonnay, but you get something different.
right.
Complexity and balanced wine, hard to get also. There's another one called Kongsgard. You ever had Kongsgard?
No.
Super culty.
But like, even
People like rave
even
about it.
yesterday, we both tasted with the same purveyor, and we both agreed on the same wine.
Yeah.
We were like,
Yep. That
what-
Cab
says something.
Cab
Helendi,
Franco.
That says something.
Helen.
whatever,
Helenetti.
bro. It was delicious.
Hey, I got home and she was like, "How was your day?" I was like, "I tried one of the best wines I've had today."
Yeah, it was great. And it's interesting that like
That
this
sets
guy,
the
like,
tone for the
they
day
brought
right
out
there.
like all these big bottles of like have my red, have my cab, have my this, and I'm like, I'll just take the Chardonnay.
The Chardonnay was
Yeah.
out of this world.
That's awesome.
Out of this
It
world.
was really delicious.
Super
Russian
nice.
River Valley, right? It
Yep.
was great, beautiful city, and like Russian River Valley from Sonoma, they can have a little more acidity because they have like a lot more breeze and it's a little bit cooler than Napa is. So to retain the acidity that this guy has able to maintain
true,
in the
man.
wine,
Got you. That was going to be actually my next question. Like, is there a correlation between that area of Napa, like that South region, where there's like that level of consistency
Dude.
with it, or is this just more of a unique?
I feel like this is also a lot of winemaking, right? This guy's been doing wine for 50
Yeah.
years. And like, you're taking wine from a very ripe region and still giving it the acidity that it needs to like clean the palate.
It's
right?
hidden in there. The acidity, you don't feel it. It's
No,
hidden. It
you
just
don't.
balances
Yeah,
out very,
exactly.
And,
very
like,
mellow.
Why they think they don't like Napa Chardonnay, or they say like, there's just like very irritating
Yeah.
thing that it's called ABC, like anything but Chardonnay. Like, dude, chill.
Who says that?
That's like a thing.
It's a
Like
saying.
anything, I don't drink
Really?
Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't Chardonnay. I don't really.
I hear it all the
Chardonnay.
time, too.
Interesting.
Because you don't know Chardonnay.
You don't know Chardonnay, yeah.
Like in the wine industry, Chardonnay is known as like what's a chameleon, right? Like it can become anything. Like Chardonnay can become any wine you want, right?
That's sick.
And like Chardonnay to me is the greatest expression of what the winemaker can do.
100%.
Because this allows you a blank canvas to become anything. This is like simplicity of saying like Chardonnay on its own without time, without malolactic fermentation, without barrel aging, can be a very boring wine.
Right.
Even for me, for example, like I don't love Chablis. Too much mineral, too much acid. It doesn't really like get me going. Now you start going into the south, you start going into like every other Puy Fusé producer. You go into Meursault, you go into Montrachet. Beautiful wines that'll like make you rethink everything you know. So it's very much about the wine. It's a canvas for the winemaker to produce his art, versus like Sauvignon Blanc, which is so aromatic and so
Okay.
beautiful and so perfumey that it's like you almost don't need to do anything. you almost need to stay away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I find, for example, Sauvignon Blancs that I love, it's when the winemaker has tamed the wine. You know, like today, for example, at a tasting, I had a 5-year-old barrel, like oak aged Sancerre, and I was like, well, I guess I like Sancerre now. You know what I mean? Because he tamed the grape. So when you have all these grapes that are like very aromatic and very profile, Pinot Noir, aromatic, beautiful. It's got that funk. It's got that flower. It's gorgeous. You almost don't need to do much to it, right? But Sauvignon Blanc, when you can tame that grape, amazing. This, on the other hand, you need to give it expression.
Got it.
And it's like, show me what you can do with a blank canvas,
Yeah.
and that's what Chardonnay
Okay,
is.
got it. That was actually going to be my next question because I was, you know, you're saying anything but Chardonnay. What makes a Chardonnay kind of the outcast in all of this, right? And I guess you explained it best.
Yeah.
You have such a blank canvas that maybe some people just don't know what to do with it.
I
and
think
then
also
it's
in
created a
Napa,
stigma around it.
at least until recently, no one really cared about white wines, right? White wines have
Interesting.
become more prominent in Napa. More wineries are putting more of an emphasis on their wines.
Okay.
The new wineries that are coming in with French influence are making white wines, or at least getting to it. So I visited one when I was in Napa this year that they don't have a red yet.
Yeah.
But they're working. Sorry, they don't have a white yet, but they're working on making a French French style white. You know, and honestly, it's the owners of Chateau Smith à Lafitte.
Mm-hmm.
So they bought in Rutherford on the floor. They bought a huge plot of land. They make a really nice red. It needs a lot of age. But the first question I had was, "Are you guys making a white?" And she's like, "It's so funny. Everybody asks the same question. We're getting into the white." So people are putting more of an emphasis on white, and I guess that's more of a Napa thing, right? Anything but Chardonnay comes from you going to a winery that wants you to try all the red wines, but in reality, and they make a white, but like, here, try it, rinse your palate, and let's get to the reds like he talked about.
Yeah.
But when you put an emphasis on it and you like put work into it, the Chardonnay could be a really nice wine, for example. You know.
And like I love, don't get me wrong, I love a beautiful Cabernet. I love
You're right.
a nice wine.
Of
But
course.
for me, I am of the school of, and I feel like George is similar, the softest, prettiest, most gentle reds and the
Yes.
biggest, oldest whites you can give me.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, give me big whites, give me age, give me mallow, give me something so interesting, and give me like a soft, supple red that's ready to drink, full of Grenache, very pretty, and I want masculine whites and feminine reds, which is the opposite of what most people want.
Yeah.
Most people want a very feminine, high acid, delicate. Oh, I want a white wine I can drink on the boat and crush, and a red wine I can have with the steak. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Give me a red I can have with meat and a white I can have with fish, and we're
Exactly.
talking the same. You know what I mean? Like,
Because that's exactly how people label their reds and their whites.
and what's very
Yeah.
interesting is
It's
that
white
like,
for the boat, red for the
Yeah,
steak. Like
you know, and
that's
like,
what it comes down to.
if you think about like aging wine, what's so interesting is that whites develop and reds soften. You know, oh yeah, you gotta have the red in 20 years because it'll come out, it'll soften, it'll be supple and ready for you. And oh, if you have this white in 20 years, the flavors will develop and it's so interesting. If you think about this like complexity of like gentle and big, and all of a sudden they meet right in the middle, and it's like your red is where you want it to be and your white has developed. Like, this is the type of wine, 22.
yeah.
I cannot wait to drink this wine in 10 years.
I know. I can't even.
I can't wait to
fathom.
drink this wine in 20 years. This is as delicious as some of the French wines I've had. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, you
No, this
went
is-
to
he
learn
nailed
from
it. He
some of
nailed
the
it.
greatest French
This is next
winemakers in the
level.
He
world.
nailed it with that wine.
Delicious, bro. It's delicious. There's like nothing more to it.
I would say this is the best Chardonnay I've definitely had. So.
Killer, dude.
I'll say-
And you know,
I'll keep it
I
at
was
that.
gonna bring a white wine from France, but I thought it would be so cool to do a red Napa wine. Oh, I'm sorry, a white Napa wine to compare with. The red Napa's gonna be so good. I thought we needed to have a white Napa that was as good. So let's drink some red wine.
Let's get into the reds.
Let's do it. We're gonna go into
go for
our transition wine, which is we're gonna go back to France. Now, I don't think we've had any France, but we've had a lot of French varietals. So what's beautiful of this wine is, okay, I think this is a beautiful transition because from white to big red, this is red and white, co-fermented.
That's crazy.
So this is from the northern Rhone Valley of France. It is called Côte Rôtie,
Okay.
which means the roasted slope. This is a blend of Syrah and Viognier. So red and white grapes fermented together.
And I love me some Viognier.
And
So
it does two things. Number one, it adds a little bit of like fat and suppleness to the wine, but also allows it to maintain the color.
Interesting.
It's the shit, dude. Cold roti is the shit.
that's good.
So for me, this is just me. I've never had anything like this in my life. Like never even knew that was a thing. But right off the bat, like when I smell it, it smells like a red. But then, as it gets deeper into my palate or my scent, whatever you want to call it, it smells more like a white.
Yeah. So this is
Little
cold rotis are very interesting because they can
barnyard
allow
funk.
about up to 20%, 20% I believe, of Viognier, which is a very beautiful, very peachy, oily white wine, but it makes reds supple and sexy and beautiful and fucking awesome. Bro.
Wow. Holy cow. And how did that originate? Was it like, has this been a thing for a long time?
Is a prestigious AOC appellation from the Northern Rhone.
Okay.
So basically what happens when you co-ferment white and red, it allows the color to extract a little better.
Okay.
But also Syrah is so abrasive and so meaty, so big.
Peppery.
And it's in the Northern Rhone, which is cooler than the Southern Rhone, which doesn't truly allow Syrah to ripen the way it should with the warmth. So the Viognier kind of tames the tannin, kind of softens it. Says, hey, you know, you maybe need a little help here.
That's how I look at it. Like I remember when I'm smelling it, it kind of gives it's giving like a little lift up.
Let me
Like
give
it's like,
an idea.
hey,
There's steak, and then you say, okay, the steak, here's a sirloin or a strip steak that doesn't have a lot of fat. And then I add a little maitre d' butter on top with lemon zest and parsley and maybe some shallot.
That's a perfect
and here we have
Starving, bro.
That's the perfect way to put it.
So you have steak, and then you have steak with maitre d' butter. This is steak with maitre d' butter.
It amplifies it.
Yeah.
That's a well-made wine right there.
Beautiful wine, bro.
Chewy.
Easy,
And you said this is
soft.
French.
French wine, Côte Rôtie. The Northern Rhone Valley, which basically the Rhone is really super interesting because it's like, while some areas of the Rhone are just single varietal, the Rhone is all about blending. So the Rhone is all about taking usually like Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre, and like cooking like a little bit of this, 20% of this, 40% of this, and I'm going to create my dish. While what we're having here is just Napa Cabernet made.
Is this the one?
That's the one.
This is the one.
This is the one.
Why I thought it would be
That's
very
prepared for this.
important to drink Rhone
Okay.
is because the Rhone, what makes Rhone incredible is their hills. Is they have these fucking slopes of wine, right? It's nothing flat. It's all these hills. So what's made Harlan and all these like promontory and all these things special is they've taken Bordelais wine varieties, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. They've taken the grapes of the Bordeaux region. They've taken this ethos of Burgundy and saying place and saying I'm gonna make single varietal Cabernet from one fucking acre of this hill. Now what Bob Levy did is he took Rhone style wine growing and vineyard placement into his winemaking and has made time and place Cabernet Sauvignon grown in a style of hillside growing from the Rhone. I remember this guy talking to me about like north versus true north of the gravitational pull and 13% versus 14%. And I was like,
Just tell me your wine. That's it. That's all I need to know.
and I poured it and I was like, top wines I've ever had in my life.
Life changing.
But think about it. If a guy's thinking about it like that and that level of complexity, like this guy is like
So basically,
thinking about it in a
cares. He
completely
cares.
different
He
lens.
cares.
No, and of course he's like
Bob hasn't been
nerd.
making wine with Bill Harlan, who's like the shit in Napa, right? Like,
Yeah.
Arguably the best
you
wine
got
in Napa.
like Harlan, you got
Promontory.
Streaming Eagle, but like if you think about like, let's say like everybody talks about like the top 5, top 10 wineries in Napa,
Bond.
Bill Harlan has top 3.
Yeah.
Bond, Promontory,
Promontory.
and Harlan Estate. Those are big boy wines,
Yeah.
like
And just
wine,
have they
you know what I
been
mean? Like, big wine,
Yes.
you know?
and they just been around for a while.
In every
Bro,
aspect.
what's the craziest shit, I was talking about it today, is that like Bro, Harlan didn't sell wine until 1996. Hasn't even been
First
30
vintage.
years.
Oh my god.
And he's
What?
Killer, man.
become one of the
So
greatest
good.
winemakers in the world.
That's actually insane.
And like what Bill did is like he went to France and was like, I'm gonna make wine from not just these 3 tables, from this section of these 3 tables. And that's it.
That's wild.
And then he has Bond, which is like, I'm gonna make wine from this section, I'm gonna make wine from this section, I'm gonna make wine
Right.
from this section. And then he was like dying for this like plot of land, and during like the recession bought it and was like supposed to make a 6 cuvee for his label Bond. It was like, this wine's so special that he's like, I'm gonna just build like a fucking like $5 billion winery for Promontory.
Which, by the way, is
no,
lights
it's
out.
one
gotta
of the
be
most
nuts.
beautiful wineries I've ever
No,
seen in my life.
you'll blow your mind. You'll sit
Yeah.
in the wine room and you're like chilling, and
Yeah.
like there's these curtains. All of a sudden, the curtains open. You're just like,
And then they
oh
bring
my
the
God.
wine, and then
No.
you forget about everything
Yeah.
else.
Oh,
the wine's
Lord.
magic.
Is
you
it
know?
Napa?
It's not.
Yeah, Napa
It's
Cabernet.
Oakville.
It's single vineyard. It's like not single vineyard, but not necessarily the vineyard, but like the space.
Yeah.
Right, and it's fucking awesome.
That's
It's
incredible.
Promontory, right? Like
I'm just envisioning it right
It's,
now.
let's put it this
it's
way.
magic. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Like honestly, even at like if you just were to go and be like, I want to do a tasting, and they're like, okay, perfect, 275, 300 a person.
Like,
I think,
please.
Hey.
I think it's 500 a person.
Whatever,
Or 575.
undervalued.
It's
You know,
worth
if
it,
you can
bro.
spend 2 hours there,
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
It'll blow your mind. So Bob Levy has been was part of like the Harlan like wine team, and he's been making his wine. So we tasted this when I was in Napa last week.
2005, by the way. So look
This
at
is
look at
his
look at the
first
color on
vintage,
this.
05,
And
and
what type of wine is this?
Is it a blend? Is it a blend or is it
no
a cab?
Cabernet Sauvignon. 100%.
It's a cab.
Okay, because it says
Yeah.
red wine.
And
Okay.
like, maybe there's some Merlot and some other, maybe there's some other stuff blended into it, but like, look, this is literally the cab. The message I sent to my investor, which was like, do you want to spend this much amount of money on the greatest Cabernet you'll ever have? Like, I can tell you right now, it was 2:42 p.m. Miami time, August 16th, when I was at Bob Levy's winery, because I know when I was like, you know, I texted him, I'm like, dude,
You're like,
buy
I need
this
it right
wine
now. You need this.
you know? Oof, sick.
Does it bring you back?
Let me
Yes,
see. Let me
amazing.
see. Let me see. Oh, whoa.
That's it. That's all you need.
That's special.
That's all
That's
you
special wine.
That's
man.
it.
I'm not like mentally prepared for this.
You can already see, like, the color's so
The
sick.
color's so nice.
That's it. Like, when you have wine like this, it's like you start understanding what
It changes your life.
what
This ain't
a,
Camus.
what a human being can do, bro. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like, to think that like one man created this,
Holy cow.
justifiably worth every cent, right?
Every
It's-
sip.
100%.
It's the same as like
worth
eating
every
at an
penny.
amazing restaurant, wearing a fine fragrance,
The experience.
wearing a shirt you love, buying a piece of art. The only difference between art and this is that like you can consume this, right? Like you'll never know what art tastes like. You get to taste this.
I'm not even joking. Like that first sip, my eyes, I think, kind of like
Yeah.
went back a little bit.
I remember when I was at his spot, which was very
The
interesting.
color's
because, like,
crazy on this,
Right,
by the way.
right.
He doesn't have like a beautiful like. This isn't like some chateau. Like, dude, we were in like a warehouse, whatever, like in his little office.
That's what I like to see.
And I remember when I smelled this, I was like, I knew before I tasted it, I was like, this is gonna be one of the greatest wines I've ever had.
Uh-huh.
That was a text I sent him this morning. I opened this wine. I
Smacks
did
you
a
in the
slow
face.
oxidation. I didn't decant it. I just left it with the cork out, and I poured myself this much, and I smelled it. And I texted him before trying it. I'm like, "Yo, this smells
This is it.
unreal."
This is like.
And he's like, "Let's buy whatever we can find. We're gonna buy whatever
buy
we can
everything
find."
you
Yeah.
can.
This is
like,
really good.
Top 5 wine.
So how what does a bottle like this go for?
Depends,
Where do you
That's the
even-
hard.
where do you even-
That's the hard
depends
part.
on where you get it from.
That's the hard part.
Like, where do you even get this? Like,
Hopefully,
right now, it's just like directly
honestly,
from the source,
if,
basically.
if I could, as a selfish human being, I'll,
Yeah.
hopefully this episode releases after I buy most of it.
Exactly.
Um,
Let's do that. Let's wait.
but like, you know, more than likely 5 to 6. You know, like from the winery, you get it cellared from him directly from
That's the
cellar.
thing.
There's no
It's
change
never
of-
been touched.
it's
Temperature
never
control.
been touched. It's a different animal.
Right. Yeah.
From the cellar, 9.
Dude, I mean, it's freaking phenomenal.
But again, would you pay $20 to taste
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Yeah, 1000% I would. And you know what I would also do? I would pay $20 for other people to try this shit
Yeah.
because it's that good.
Yeah.
It like almost brings
Yeah,
tears
this is
to your eyes,
crazy.
bro.
I'm telling you, my eyes
It
like
just
yeah.
lasts in your mouth forever.
That's crazy.
Like the
It's sitting
taste,
there.
the taste lasts in your mouth
And
for
then when
5
you go
minutes.
back and you think about the fact that this
Oh,
is
it's
like
unreal.
a human being growing grapes
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like the same grape you buy for like $4.99, you know, whatever. Like you eat grapes all the time, right? Like this is just a grape and a barrel and a human saying like this is right, bottling it and sitting at the right temperature and then drinking it almost
20 years
what were you
later.
doing in 2005?
I don't
You
know what I was
mean?
doing.
Like,
No, I was
They're probably
in
learning how to
elementary
swim.
school, learning
Probably learning how to
multiplication for
swim.
the first time or something.
you
Maybe.
know what I mean? Like I'm a little older than you, but like, dude, I was
Yeah.
in college. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
wasting away my life in college, right? Like,
Then you have this guy that's
and
just
this
like,
guy was just creating like
what a beast.
what a beast, right?
Literally a
Like,
beast.
and then you drink something and it's like, well, great.
Is he?
like,
Is he
how do I top
how
this?
old is this guy now? To
No,
this
he
day?
must be in his 60s or 70s because he's
All right,
been
but
with Harlan for
he's still
30,
kicking.
40 years. And then you drink something like this and
We
it's
gotta
like,
find
okay,
him.
well, what's next? What's next, right? Like, and the craziest thing is that there is next.
That's crazy.
That's the fun part about wine.
That
the
is
fun
crazy.
part, right?
That is
Like-
crazy. It's just constant
And like,
discovery.
this is by no means like a chill tasting. Like, this is a
No,
sick
yeah.
lineup. You know what I mean? Like, this will make anybody happy. But like, even there's times when Jordan and I, like, there's this guy we follow on
Oh, this is
Instagram
crazy.
from Miami. Like, I don't know who he is. His
We-
Instagram
we-
is the Night of Wine, and he just drinks the sickest shit. And right, he'll go to like, he'll go wherever, like the chillest
No,
restaurant.
he'll go to
He's
Luca
the
and open up
sickest lineup.
$20,000
And
worth
I'm like,
of
bro, do
wine.
you see this?
Wait, for real?
Yeah. He's the one that put me onto him.
I just want to make bread so I can just drink the finest wine in the world.
That's I'm with you on that
That's all
one.
I want.
Yeah, that guy
bro.
lives life.
Yeah.
That guy lives
And
life.
What does he
figure
do?
it out, man.
We don't know who he
Who
is.
knows,
We've never
bro?
seen his
You
Like,
face.
guys have never
I
seen
have
He's
him.
like
no
anonymous
idea.
on Instagram.
He's a
I'll send you the
fucking
page.
knight, apparently.
Yeah, literally.
That's all he is. I don't know, bro.
That's
He-
actually
He
insane.
drinks the craziest wine you'll ever imagine, and it's just like,
Yeah,
dude,
please
let
send
me
that.
just
I gotta see that.
let
let
That's
me
funny.
drink all the stuff with like the sediment at the bottom of your
Yeah,
bottle, please.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Let me smell it.
Yeah, please. Let me smell your.
Let me smell your
I
glass.
text him all the time. I'm like, let me smell your corks, bro. But like,
Oh,
what's
shit.
crazy is that like this is as good as I had it there, bro.
No, this is incredible. This is life changing.
This wine has integrated so well. It's aged so well. Everything's so
what's crazy
balanced
is that
still.
This is like old school Napa style winemaking with time. Yes, Napa now is like big and juicy,
Jammy,
and sweet
yeah.
and jammy. And that's okay. Like I was talking about it with my brother-in-law. the
It's a
other day.
business at the end of the day. They're
Like-
gonna pay attention to what
Like
the people want.
great wine from Napa is amazing, but then bad wine from Napa is like, or not so bad wine.
Right.
It's very like subjective,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like is jammy, sweet, vanilla, over extracted. But then when you think about like bad wine from Europe that hasn't gotten into that, you think like that wine sucks, but like I can still drink this because like the palate has grown to this like, oh, it's yummy, it's vanilla, it's
Right.
sweet, it's delicious. So like, yes, it's more marketable, 100%.
Right. That's what it comes down to.
But like, this is the kind of stuff that like, even as someone who collects wine at home, like I would love to buy everything I could from this wine.
And just have it.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
right now, this is like crush it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
I just don't know how much better this wine could get.
Me neither. And I
No,
don't know. And I
I
don't know how
agree.
long I'd be able to sit on this
Hold
wine
this.
in
No,
my
no.
cellar. I don't know what the
This is like-
That's the problem.
Every
If I
time
know
I-
I have it,
I open my cellar and I look at my fridge and I look at that. I'm looking at it like it's a Tuesday.
And
I'm
what
gonna
year?
do-
What,
Oh,
2005, right? Yeah.
It's almost 20 years
Yeah,
old,
exactly.
dude.
So you were saying that the sweet spot is like that 20 to 25 year mark when it comes to Napa
When it comes to
wines?
Napa, yeah,
Yeah.
like for the most part,
Yeah.
the best examples will age well for 20, 25 years. Some obviously much longer, but for the most part, you're in that 20, 25 before it starts to decline or just not get any better.
And like
you know?
that's the thing
Right.
too, is like in the 90s to early 2000s, they kind of changed their winemaking with less acid. So when you start drinking the 80s, where there was like super high acid,
Yeah.
super drinkable.
Exactly.
stuff. The other day I had an 82 at the restaurant, and it was like
What was it? Silver Oak?
Monticello,
82.
which is like
Oh,
not an
crazy.
incredible winery, but like
But still, the style of making back then was
it
different than it
was
is
so
now.
it was
Yeah.
so much acid that it held up to life, you know, and it was like it was crushing. And like we blind tasted it, and my boy was like, "What do you think this is?" I was like, to me, 15-year-old super tough.
Really?
This is 82 Napa, and I was like, mind blown. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But like,
dude, that's
I just
crazy.
never,
82.
I could never imagine that like a 40-plus-year-old wine would still have that much integrity and that much acid. But that's how they made wine back then.
You
So
really
because
guessed
of the acidity, it lasts
Yeah.
longer, or I guess
Yeah.
the
That's what
concept
you
of that
want.
wine lasts
Acid,
longer.
acid creates longevity.
Longevity, got you.
fruit
Okay.
Like,
integration.
now the palate has changed where it's like we don't want that much because bro, everybody on earth is drinking wine the day they buy it.
Yeah.
Like who's buying wine to store. Like
No.
the vision is like, let me make wine to drink
Right.
today.
Of course.
That's a huge conversation,
I
by the way.
understand that.
Which,
yeah,
for
I agree.
example-
I agree. That's a huge talking point because the concept is age wine, let it, the older the better, right?
Yeah.
But reality is, like you said, people want to drink the wine today.
That's
and
the beauty
you don't
of
want
like
to
the
let it
internet,
sit.
bro. If you think about it, like 20 years ago that would have happened, but like I can drink this wine in California at 11 a.m. Text him at 2 p.m. Miami time, and he's buying it off the internet, and it's as good as I remembered it in California.
Yeah.
That didn't happen 20 years ago.
We were worried
right?
about that, by the way.
True.
Huh?
Because
That's
we
very
were
true.
worried about that. I'm like, yo, just let me know if it drinks the same way. We gotta
Yeah,
buy it all.
that's very
Yeah,
true.
we
You know?
like even today.
Couldn't believe it.
Even today, he's like, it's incredible. I'm like, dude, buy everything we can.
Yeah.
Buy it all. Buy the internet's worth of stock of this wine. Like my goal is to like in
Yeah.
6 months to go online and be like, you can't find any of this because
Exactly.
him and I own it all.
I mean,
We own the
shit.
market.
Exactly.
And we're raising the price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you just resell it.
Yeah, bro.
Keep
This
enough
wine is
inventory
just
for you
like
guys.
stunning, man.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. But I think that'll wrap it up for today.
Beautiful.
We will continue to drink this and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm not stopping
Thank you
drinking
guys.
this.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for
Yeah, of course,
putting
man.
this together. This
Pleasure,
is fun.
bro. This is
And I think we're gonna need a round two of this.
the easiest conversation I've had in my life, honestly.
We'll need a round two, but
It
hope
feels
you
like
guys
it's been
enjoyed
5
it. I
minutes.
mean, that was extremely informative. We got to try a bunch of different wines, and hopefully, that helped you guys get a little bit of familiar with some of the different wines that are out there and some of the things that you can try at the restaurants. And obviously, come check out the restaurants if you're in Miami,
Fire.
visiting Miami. Obviously, go check out the
Go on a
Right,
Friday.
for it.
Go on
Yeah.
a Friday to Luca and
the
order the
gnocchi.
gnocchi before it
With
sells
Char-
out.
with
I've
four
ex-
Chardonnay.
This is
I
not a
have
paid
person-
advertisement.
no.
This is
I had that last week for the first time.
the gnocchi.
And
I was just telling you
would
before
say,
the recording
Guys,
how amazing it
The
was.
best
Now-
part is it's not pasta.
I know.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I know.
Now on the podcast would be the
I was
first time
mind blown
saying
how I
that
heard
pretty
how they
sooner
made it.
than later we'll have a Lamelo's Eating House collab.
We're working
dinner
on that.
happening
Down
We're
soon.
working on
Oh,
that. I've told a couple people.
hell yeah.
People
Yeah,
are
we're
people
gonna
are
be doing
interested
very
for
soon.
sure. That'll be cool.
Dude, that's hype.
That's
That's
cool.
good. That's sick. Hey,
Bring
but
your
yeah,
wine
thank
and
you guys.
drink and eat.
100%.
That's
the
it.
best,
Absolutely.
That's the best way to do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in.
Yo, we never cheers.
And
So cheers.
a little salud before we end. Cheers. Cheers.